Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of From Boots to Suits, the podcast that is dedicated to helping all those servicemen and women as they transition through the ever changing, often complex journey of transitioning back into the civilian world after spending time in the military. We have a very special guest, a guest that we've been excited to have on the show for some time now, Mr. Bryan Escobedo of Combined Arms. Bryan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being here. Hey, before we get into the show, I just wanted to throw out some numbers here that I pulled out from Combined Arms and what you guys do. But man, it's some extraordinary work that y'all are doing. You know, serving over 60,000 veterans and families in the Texas area. You know, in 2023, over 26,000 veterans and service members, working with over 250 veteran nonprofit organizations that are vetted through you guys through a very rigorous vetting process. And then, you know, most impressive is the access of 1,500, you know, different services that you guys have access to help veterans and just help veterans and families navigate through challenges that they're facing in the community, and really doing so much work in the community. And just wanted to, you know, point that out of what Combined Arms does on a very surface level, but it goes far deeper than what these numbers say. Could you just, before we get into Combined Arms, would you tell us a little bit about your story, how you got there and how you got to where you're at today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm here in Houston, Texas. This is where I was born and raised. I was about 16 when 9/11 happened, and I was a heavy metal kid, so I had blue hair and piercings and stuff, you know, and spike chains and all that good stuff. But I was in JROTC, so I had a respect for the military. I didn't really want to join. But 9/11 happened and it changed my mind in an instant. So I decided, just that same day that I was going to join the Marine Corps. So I graduated high school, and the very next week I'm in boot camp. So I went to boot camp June 23rd of 2003. I became a combat engineer, and so my journey through the Marine Corps was, hitting the fleet and just doing 3 deployments. And so my first one was a MEU. My second one was an actual, straight up Al-Anbar tour. The second and third tour were both Al-Anbar in 2006 and 2007. And so I was wounded in combat in 2007, and that was, what changed everything for me. So I'm very grateful that I had that experience. Although it was awful, it was an opportunity for me to grow as a person, and it gave me a very complex problem to solve, which I worked on for years through therapy, through physical therapy, mental health therapy. So my journey into this world of military nonprofit started with me being wounded in combat. So I know what it's like to have TBI and PTSD and anxiety and be completely broke as a new veteran. I know what it feels like to lose that identity, as so many of us do. When I got out as an E5, my first enlistment, so I was high achieving, and then getting out and being a freshman in college, not having a lot of money, it was very difficult. So while I was in college, I noticed that a lot of my fellow veterans who were freshmen or sophomores were really struggling, both with really it was 3 things. It was their mental health, their sense of self-worth, and their economic position, right? They were all, we're all in college trying to get up ahead and get some upper mobility. I also noticed there was a lot of suicide ideation. There was a lot of suicides that happened. In the second year I was out, I met a guy named John Bursler. He's the founder of Lone Star Veterans Association and Combined Arms. He's the brainchild behind it. He's also the former veteran experience officer of the VA. Amazing guy. He's a Marine Corps combat veteran. So he gave me an opportunity to lead and to join him in building our first nonprofit organization. And so for the past 15 years, I've been working in nonprofits. I've created 5 different programs, from suicide intervention to suicide prevention, peer mentoring, employment, and also I established 7 committees where we use data to identify and address complex social issues in the military and veteran community. So throughout the years, I've always been a guy that makes programs. Like I see a social issue. My background is social science. I see a problem and I create a program to address it directly, and then measure its success and alter it. So I'll go ahead and stop there. But that's kind of my journey and how I got to where I am now.
Yeah, I think that's what's most impressive of what you do and how you do it, is not only do you see the problem, but you find a way to solve for problem. But on top of that, you also drive metrics to show that the problem is being solved and how it's being solved, or are you spending your time and resources in the right areas? That's really impressive and really important, because I think a lot of nonprofits that we talk to and that we've chatted with over the podcast, they have the great ideas. They don't know how to measure what they're doing. Is it working? Is it successful? Are they tapping into the right pockets in the veteran community? And they're kind of flying by the seam of their pants, while you and your team is very direct and purposeful on the approach and the result that you're getting.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. So, what I found out throughout the years is there's about 45,000 military nonprofit organizations in the United States, and a large percentage of those started after 9/11. So, what happened is, all of our communities started to receive the first batches of new post 9/11 veterans, wounded veterans. So communities, just the American psyche responded by making these organizations, right? And 80% of them have a budget of under $100,000, and only 20% are actually viable, large or medium-sized nonprofit organizations. Many of those 45,000 have shut their doors, and really they started with good intentions, really to do immediate impact in their community. So some of the really good ones who had leaders with business acumen and business process knowledge, and happen to have the right mission and good funders have grown, right? So I've seen them grow over the years, over the past 15 years. And so there are nonprofits, and I hate to say this, that are bad actors in this space. And so there are organizations. Actually, I worked for one early on. It wasn't a great organization. They did not have great leadership nor great programming, but they got lots of grant funding, right? And so having that experience early on taught me what I shouldn't look like in a nonprofit, or what a nonprofit shouldn't look like, right? So there are a lot out there that they mean to do well, but they don't have the ability to do so, or they mean to do well, but their lack of knowledge or process or how to create a program, measure things, stay in communication with their clients causes them to fail, right, or let down the client. So Combined Arms, one of the reasons we were created was to be a clearinghouse for the best of the best of the best organizations in the country. I'll get more into how we select our partners in our network, but I'll go ahead and stop there.
I've noticed just that nonprofits in general, no matter what the genre, a lot of them start as pet projects because someone had an experience. And so they want to start a nonprofit around it, and then they just go. And because they're so closely tied to it, they don't have that business sense to make those tough calls or merge when they should merge. Sometimes they're a program and they're not a standalone nonprofit. And then you get so many people in that battle space all going over very little resources, and they all start dying on the vine instead of, coming together and making one bigger nonprofit, or, working around that way. So
Yeah, we
definitely
see
seen
we
that
see
a
it
lot.
everywhere. Our term for it is egos and logos, right? So it's people that use the language, no, that's my veteran, you can't have them, right? No, I mean the veteran and their family need to go wherever they need to go to address their issues, right, or to solve their complex issues. I'm very happy to say, here in Houston, the military nonprofit environment is very collaborative. We're probably one of the most collaborative cities in the country. We all have goodwill toward each other, and we came to understand that the post 9/11 veteran has a myriad of needs, right? An individual has a complexity of needs over their lifetime, but you add their family, their spouse, their children, and what they need, and now you have a lot of things that not one organization can solve. You need a network of organizations to address these complex issues. That's the main reason that we created Combined Arms.
Why do you think Combined Arms work so well with other organizations, or in the Houston area in general? You guys are a very collaborative unit versus in other areas where it's not so collaborative, and it almost feels like they're on a battleground against each other.
Yeah, it's just it's cultural differences as leadership in those areas. So I mean, and let me just pause real quick and state. So Combined Arms started in Houston back in 2016, and we meant to be a city solution, and then we grew. We expanded across Texas, and then other states started to look at us and say, "Hey, what they're doing there is really working." Using technology to address the issue in a way that you can measure, you can see what clients are doing. You can see their progress as they consume these resources and have positive outcomes. And so we've been hired by the state of Texas to run the entire state. We were hired by the state of South Carolina to establish the South Carolina Veterans Network, and Virginia, the Virginia Veterans Network. And here in about a week or so, we're going to release the New York City, the New York City Vet Connect. So we're now working with state governments to, so that they'll essentially will white label our product. They hire us to build the technology and then to consult them on how to use it and how to read the data and make change. And I'll get into much more detail about how we do that later.
Do you think you guys stand out amongst others because you're so technology based, and it's almost like you're you're a SaaS company or SaaS organization that has the mission of helping veterans on top of it, and so you're very technology based and you use the resources and technology available today to help understand what those needs are. Do you think that's what is the biggest difference in your organization versus others?
I'd say that that's a big part of it, but also we're mostly all veteran and military spouses as staff, right? So each one of us on the team have that mindset, and we empathetically understand what it's like to be that person that we're serving. I think it's a major component. Our CEO is a guy named Mike Hutchings. He's an Army Ranger, heavy combat veteran from Afghanistan. He's just an excellent leader. He's really made our organization and empowered everybody in our organization to really live our company virtue, our company values. And so I think that we all have like this extreme ownership mindset where we own what we have and we do our absolute best to improve it constantly, right? So I think that's it. And also we are a nonprofit organization. So our company is really split into two major departments. One is the Texas Veterans Network, which is the original Combined Arms that has a physical headquarters in Houston, Texas. We have multiple regional managers in all the major metropolitan areas, and they directly work with the communities that they live in, right? The tech team, which is a software as a service team, replicates that model in other states and other major cities.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Very.
How would you say, just going back a little bit, you mentioned how your staff is all veterans or spouses of veterans. How has your own personal journey poured into Combined Arms? How have those experiences helped you take things, from from different standpoints, right? And having that empathy and understanding of where veterans sit and where they stand, and using your own personal experiences to help navigate through those times for them.
Yeah, the Marine Corps taught me to have high standards for myself, to have integrity. So in the past 15 years in building these different programs, it's always been important to me to prove that I'm doing what I say I'm doing. And to take risks, to try new things and measure them and see if they work or not. And if they don't work, have the integrity to cut it, let it go, and try again, right? So I think that's a part of it. I'm just being an NCO, right? I was a sergeant in the Marine Corps, I was a squad leader. I'm just being an NCO. I'm looking out for my fellow vets. In the beginning of my career, I started out doing one-on-one work with vets. I did a lot of it on the clock, off the clock, especially with the suicide intervention space, in the peer mentoring space, writing programs to help other veterans, to train them on how to be peer mentors and deal with crisis. So it's always been me trying something out, finding out that it works, creating a program around it, and then bringing other veterans and spouses to help to manage this program, and then push out the impact that the program has. And so I think that's just been it. It's I have a no BS meter, and I put that everywhere in my work, all over the technology. We need to know factually, are we doing good or are we doing bad? Are the organizations doing good or are they doing bad, right? Did they let the client down or did they exceed expectations? So as I get into explaining our technology, you'll see there's lots of feedback loops. There's lots of integrity checkpoints to make sure that the client and the organizations and we, Combined Arms, are doing the right thing and the best by veterans.
Yeah, let's jump into it. Let's walk through your platform and how you guys do it, because just navigating through your website, it is like no other. It almost has this shopping feel, like I'm shopping for something, I'm shopping for help, and it's got this shopping cart like feel to it, and walk us through the way you guys put it all together.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so to begin with, Houston, we have about 300,000 vets in our community, right? So I think Texas is now the largest vet population in the U.S. I think we're about 1.3, 1.5 million vets in Texas. So this is fertile ground. So in a big city, you can do things. We have a lot of infrastructure of nonprofit and the VA, right, and the state government. They're all there, and the county government, the city government, all their veteran affairs efforts are all in one place, right? And so, again, the reason that we created this technology is there was a lot of noise in this space, and it's really hard to tell which organization was a good organization, which one's mediocre or just not great. And we needed to protect the veteran, because I heard lots of people come to me. I've met thousands and thousands of vets doing this work, And the way it used to be is I would know just from my own personal network an organization that can address an issue or solve a problem for a vet. So I make a referral. Hey, here's a business card, or here's a phone number, here's a website, or here's the address. Go there. But once that person leaves, I never hear from them again, right? Unless they're like, hey, they sucked, right? They were no good, or they didn't solve my problem, because veterans will always tell you when things aren't going right, right? And so there needed to be a way to systemize that. I needed to know, did you get to where you needed to go? When you got there, did you get what you needed? And what was the outcome or the output of that interaction, right? Also, what was the dollar amount? How much did it cost the organization, the city, or the federal government to do that one thing for this person, right? And so we knew that we needed technology, a platform that could facilitate the measurements and the connections, or the connections and measurements of success, and really to facilitate that no BS environment where you're going to find good organizations that are going to do what they say they're going to do. It was also very important to us that we facilitate, veterans engaging with each other. There was a period of time where we had, these social groups of clumps of veterans, either by branch or unit in our technology. There's a whole lot, right? So all in all, we decided on building this on the Salesforce platform. And then we got veteran and military veteran spouses to build the technology. So they're coders, they're knuckle draggers that learn how to code, and building this technology based on, one, their skill set, but also their passion for helping their fellow vet, right? So with that, I'll go ahead and jump into the user interface for a military veteran, all right? So I'll go ahead and share my screen now. Here we go. All right. Okay, so the journey, it really begins by going to combinedarms.us. Now, if you're in the state of Virginia or South Carolina, you're going to see a different layout. It's going to be the state government, and it's going to be their actual website. And then when you log in, it's our technology, right? So we white label this for the state. So it begins here, get resources. You can see the page, all this cool stuff there, but it begins with get resources, right? So I'm going to log in, and I'll skip forward. Before I log in, I had to fill out a certain set of questions. This is very important to understand, because this is how we achieve accuracy. But at a high level, this is where you find resources. This is where you manage all the things you've requested. This is your profile or your data, and this is veteran status info. So this is going to confirm whether or not you are in fact a vet, right, to prevent stolen valor. You can pull in your disability ratings to share with the claims officer, and you can also pull in your DD-214. I'll get into more detail about that later. But I want to begin with data. Now, this is a sensitive topic in the veteran community because we're all paranoid about our data being leaked and all this other stuff.
Right.
So before I even get into this, I want to say over the past almost 9 years, we have really whittled down and perfected our terms and conditions in our privacy policy. So it's written at a 10th grade reading level. I'm behind a lot of this language to just really prove that, hey, we're only using your data to connect you to organizations and for analytics. And at the end of this little presentation, you're going to understand why analytics are so important, why having data is so important. And so really, most veterans don't have an issue once they see the value proposition of this marketplace that we have that's all free for them and their families. It's well worth the ticket of having to fill out this data. Well, I want to go through this. So the very first thing we want to know is, who are you? Are you veteran, retired, in active reserve, active military, guard reserve, family supporter? So these are the primary identities. These are your secondary identities. So I can be any one of these other things. Now, we specifically have these here because there's a resource in the system for this constituency, right? So if you say I'm also this person, then now the system is going to present those options to you. So it's curated specifically to you, the person that's navigating the website. So we need the biographic info. So if it has an asterisk, it's necessary. Birth date, gender, ethnicity, street address. Right. Then we get into these. I want to point out these 4 data points. So the zip code, the household income, and the household composition of adults and children. What we're doing here with these 4 data points is we're looking at the federal poverty line. So every zip code in the whole country has a line that if you're a working person and you have a spouse who's not working, and then you have 2 children or 3 children, there's a formula to say, hey, you need to make this much a year just to be above the poverty line. So what we're doing here is we're calculating where you are on that poverty line. So if you're at or below the poverty line, then you're essentially triaged to our intake team. So Combined Arms has a 24/7 operation of an intake team. So basically, they're doing social work and case management for every single client who becomes a priority one client. And what I mean by priority one client, this means you're either homeless, you're living in poverty, or you've expressed mental health distress. Those are the main three criteria. And we're capturing that just by you filling stuff out, right? And the way you engage with the system. And again, the reason we're doing that is because behaviorally, you might just go and say, "Hey, I want a service dog," or "Hey, I want to go work out in a gym or something," or I want to get a better job." But there's these more pressing issues like your mental health or your financial situation. So we're prioritizing that and saying, "Hey, if you're expressing these needs, we need to put out the fire first, and everything else will follow from there." All right. That's the reason we're asking these questions. We want to know if you're currently renting or leasing, or if you're homeless, or what's going on with that. Again, if you're homeless or you're housing insecure, we're going to immediately give you a call the same day and talk to you and do case management. There's other stuff here. So the education level and employment status. Are you unemployed? Are you on disability? Are you looking for a new job? Yes or no? And then what is your earning potential? Right. That's what this question is. Okay. So all these metrics for us are necessary because it's going to help us to, if we need to, custom make a plan for you or address certain things. Say, hey, you've been underemployed for a decade, but you don't have an education. We're going to talk to you about getting a trade or going to university, using your benefits to go to school. And so this allows us to know where we need to meet you at as far as where you are in upward mobility. We want every veteran to be economically stable, and I'll get more into why that's important later. Then we want to know your military biographic info, so your MOS, what generation you are. So there's certain organizations that only serve a certain range, a certain branch of the military, a certain kind of MOS. So that's the reason we're asking these questions, or a certain generation, like pre 9/11, post 9/11. And then we're asking discharge status. The reason that is, if you have a dishonorable discharge, you are statistically likely to live in poverty your whole life. So if we flag this down, then we're going to connect you with second chance employment. What that means is there are companies out there, there are industries out there that will take somebody that has a dishonorable discharge, and these are well-paying jobs that will get you in a better economic position than you were before. And so that's the reason behind each one of these questions. We've whittled it down. It takes about a minute and a half to fill it out, and so once that's done, then you're in the platform. All right.
So
But yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
this year, is this only for vets in the Houston area or
No.
across the state of Texas?
The entire country. So any veteran anywhere in the world that's a U.S. veteran. So you can be stationed in Germany or South Korea or Okinawa, Japan, or Nebraska. You can be anywhere. So we are a national network of veteran service organizations.
I know